All right, guys, today we're going to talk about setting CEO blocks. So figuring out what priorities you need to be working on and then how to allocate your calendar so that you can actually put time into the right things to make sure that you're growing your business first and foremost before you do anything else. So one thing I wanted to note is that there is a workbook for this. It looks like so. Just throw myself up there on the screen. It looks like so. There's a link in the email that you received. And if you didn't get that email, that's okay. There's a link right below where you can download it from. So this is the workbook we're going to work off of. You can print this out yourself, or if you have an iPad, throw it on Notability and you can work through it that way. Cool. All right, let's get rolling. So the first thing about prioritizing our CEO time is we need to figure out where in our actual list of priorities that it fits. We want to think that it needs to be at the top, but for some of us, it like working on our business or our business priority is just not one of our 1, 2, 3s. So this came to me. I first learned this a very long time ago when I first started my business, actually quite before we opened. My business partner at the time said, you know what, you need to figure out what your top 5 priorities are. And that way you're going to learn how to make decisions on how to allocate time, what is important, what isn't important, and where to just like apply yourself through your day to day. And so he made me make a list of my top 5. Okay. Now my top 5 can look something like business and fitness. I've got family, money, relationships, like friends, that sort of stuff. So that's the place where we're actually going to start is on your list here. So I've given you 6 squares, but you only need about 5, or I mean, if you have more, use them. But let's start with this, and we need to work on setting our intentions first. So let's do that. So for me, I'm going to put my health and fitness here is number 1. Okay. Health and fitness. That means that before I do anything else, I need to make sure that I have allocated time or I've prioritized time in my day where I'm going to spend on just my health and fitness. Okay. Next up for me is my business. So my biz growth. This means that it's not just tackling the to-do list, but it's actual time spent working directly on my business. From there, the next thing for me is probably my family. Okay. That's another one. From here, we go money, we go relationships. And I mean, as you're doing this, yours can fall in any order. And I mean, if you have maybe like faith fits in here somewhere, whatever your 6th one, if you have one, you can throw it in there. But what going through this exercise does is it shows us what blocks in our day need to be important and allocated before we do anything else. Okay. So underneath all of these boxes, I want you to write, what is the thing that you have to do, the 1 or 2 things that you need to do for each of these priorities for you to feel successful that you have spent time working on these things, okay? So it might be like eat well, prioritize my food, nutrition, and work out. For my business growth, I want everybody to write CEO tasks, or CEO time would be a better word to put there. Yeah, CEO time. Okay, and then family. So is this time with your kids, picking them up from school? Is it taking them to their activities? Like, what does that need to look like for you? Okay, so this is just like literally turning my phone off at 5 p.m. so that I can spend time with my husband. Okay, whatever money means for you, whatever relationships mean for you. So this could just be like, hey, once a week, I need to make sure that I'm hanging out with friends. We're just throwing these down here, okay? Faith for me is anything that grounds you. So dog walks in my day are important. Being outside with like no earphones, nothing, just in the solitude of the day. Faith, I mean, if you're religion based, that's cool. That fits in there too, but like that. And so when you kind of very simplistically look at it this way, you will understand what's important to you, and then you can start to build your days backwards, okay? So now that we have this laid out, I want you to flip ahead 3 months in your calendar, and we're going to start building out our blocks that way. Okay. And so what I mean by that is if this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay, we've got your time down the side on your day planner, whatever it might be. I mean, you could do this right on your phone, on your computer as you're doing this with me. So if I know that my health and fitness was my number one thing on the list that I needed to take care of, so that might mean that every morning at 6 a.m., I start my workout. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I block those things in first. Whatever your number one is, I want you to go into your calendar and lay those things out. Okay, so from there, working on my business was the next thing. Okay, now for me, I spend no more than 90 minutes every single day on my business. And it's one of the very first things that I do. That works for me in my life. And I have spent 3 years cultivating that routine. You might not know where it best fits in your day, and that is okay. That's 1000% okay. Okay, now here's the thing. You can try and force it into a particular spot where you want it to fit, but it might not be realistic with what else you've got going on your day. So keep that in mind, okay? For me, putting it at 4 a.m. is the spot in the day where I have the least amount of friction possible pushing against me. That means the dogs are sleeping, my husband is sleeping, and I can just seclude myself in my office and work on what I need to do without being bothered. And that's how I'm going to encourage you, is try and throw it into somewhere in your day where you're going to have the least amount of resistance in what you're trying to do. Okay. So again, for some, that might be in the morning, first thing, might be a different time, end of the day. That's okay. So I didn't write 4 a.m. here, but that's where my time is going to fit. So CEO time. And I'm going to put that across the week because that's a priority for me. That's number 2. And I make sure that that stuff gets done. Okay. So from there, you can map out all of the other things that are on your list that require time in your day. Okay. So I know that 5 p.m., I said I wanted my day done. So my phone goes off. And I actually do write this in my calendar. It says, don't book here and then phone away. That's exactly what it says on my calendar. And that's more so like a reminder to myself that this is a promise that I made to myself, but also for the time that I've allocated to my family. Okay. The next thing on my list was money. That just kind of is the level of importance it is to me. The friendship part and the faith part, which is I should have ranked that one higher in my day, that I need certain time in my day for my dog walks. Okay. So that might look like time here, time there. And this is very intentional. Like, get outside, put my phone in the car, and do things that are not related to work. Stuff that is refreshing and rejuvenating for me. Okay. So once you have an ideal or perfect week laid out, you can start to work backwards towards the current day. Now, the reason I got you to start 3 months out is because there's typically nothing on your calendar in 3 months' time. There might be like the occasional thing, like a health appointment or something like that. But in terms of like meetings with your clients or your customers, those things are just not on your calendar. So that's why we go ahead 3 months. And then we're actually going to start to work backwards. So now that you have this ideal way that you want your week to look with where you're spending your time, you're just going to start to work backwards. Copy and paste it. Literally copy and paste it week by week by week at a time until you bump up against the current day. Okay? Now here's the thing about the current day. You might have an appointment booked in already, and you might have an appointment booked in here. And you might have this like super big block that actually extends into the evening of some stuff that's already booked in. And oh yeah, you have this early appointment right here and whatever it might be. So you're going to have some conflicts. Okay. These conflicts, these are the make or break spots. This is why we don't actually work forwards. It's why we don't flip our page to next week and try and implement these things right away. Because when you look at this, I mean, mind you, it's chicken scratch right now. But when you look at this, it's very overwhelming. You want this particular spot to do your workout, but you already have an appointment that's scheduled in there. And so you get frustrated, and instead of working around it, you just call it all off. You throw it off. You're like, nope, this is not going to work. And why am I even trying to do this? But if we go ahead 3 months and we work backwards, we can come to this point after we have already mapped out 2 months of an ideal week. We get to this spot, and now we can say, all right, I need to compromise a little bit. So the first thing, I knew that my workout was my most important part, my most important priority. And right here on Wednesday, I've got an appointment where I'm supposed to be working out. Okay, cool. So let's change that. Can I bump my workout maybe right before the second appointment? Or maybe I take a rest day on this Wednesday and I don't work out. And instead, I bump it onto the weekend when maybe I was not going to do anything, but now I am going to. So the idea is that just because there's something there, it doesn't mean that we have to quit. This is simply a template. We need to ebb and flow around it, and we just need to make some compromises. Okay, so what I mean also by that is, all right, my CEO time happens all the time this early, but again, if I have this appointment that's supposed to be here, well, maybe I can't fit 90 minutes of work in here, but I can fit 20 minutes. But I can fit 20-minute window right in here of CEO time. Now, it's not the 90 minutes that I normally have up here, but instead it's only 20 minutes. But that's okay, because 20 minutes in a day is better than none. And that means that I can still work on the things that will grow my business and move my business forward, not my to-do list, but we'll get there. I can still do the things that will move my business forward in that 20 minutes. And if I don't get them done, it's okay, because I still was intentional about that time. So my point being is that we want to ebb and flow with things, especially as we start to work backwards. This is the only time you will have to make compromises. The only time. Because once you start to get into this rhythm and you start working ahead to the next 3-month block, you'll already be ahead. And as the days progress forward, you're just going to start to map out your appointments and commitments and things around these blocks that you already have. So the overwhelm and the difficulty that you might feel right now as you try and figure out the next couple of weeks is simply just because we are doing this for the very first time. But every time hereafter, you will be working forwards on a template that has already been set. So please remember that. Okay? So let's go back to that. All right? Now, the CEO time is the reason you're here. You want to know how to grow your business. So as you ebb and flow and you try and map out all these other things that need to get moved and worked in, that's fine. But it's the CEO time that you're blocking in that we don't necessarily want to compromise. And if we have to compromise, we're still going to try and make it as minimal as possible while we still accomplish what we need to. All right, cool. So on that note, your next question becomes, all right, cool. How do I fill that CEO time? How do I know what I need to be working on? So let's figure that out. Okay. That's going to take us into understanding what our goals are and what we need to be working on from both a passive mindset and an active mindset. Okay. So we're going to do this 2 ways. We're going to focus on broad and ongoing. And those of us that work with us in our private mentoring, they're going to have a very specific idea of what their goals are. So you'll be able to better define what it is that you need to be working on. So when we go from broad and ongoing, and what that means is, well, from a broad perspective, I might want to be, well, I want to add 100K into my business. Okay. So that's like an overall type of goal. I know that I want to work a little bit less. Okay, cool. I know that I want to make one hire. Okay, that's fair. The ongoing goals might be like, well, I know I need to increase the number of clients that I need. I need more customers. Okay, I know I need more leads. I know I need more, like, just plain old money. So we're going to talk about value, increasing the value. And we also know that we need to increase what we call our EHR, which is like how much money you make per hour if working less is the thing that you want to do. Okay. These are very vague speaking, but again, if you're one of our private mentoring clients, you're going to understand how to map this stuff out a little bit more specifically as you work with your mentor. Now, the other thing to note is, hey, there are passive and active ways to do these things. Active ways to hunt these goals. So I'm just going to write it here for you. Okay, active means like you're going out there and you are you are taking the action, you are instinctively and intentionally making these decisions on the actions that you are taking every day. Doing things passively might mean like you're still doing tasks, but they're things that happen in the background. So they're things that you can hit your goals with, but they're things that you have less control over. And that's the word. This is lots of control, and this is not very much control. So it's still tasks that you do. So that means that these are the things that kind of need to happen. Okay. So you're going to break them down, but they're a little bit more vague as you start to break them down. This sheet right here is just meant to be a place for your brain to filter the things that you want to do and the things that you need to do in order to get these things. Okay. Cool. So then that takes us into, now we need to filter this list to get us to the more specific stuff. All right. The one thing that I want to talk about is the difference between actionable items and to-do lists. And so we are going to build out what we call our big three. And the big three are the 1 to 3 things that you can do first and foremost when you sit down for your CEO time before you do absolutely anything else. You do these 1 to 3 things. Because these 1 to 3 things are the things that intentionally grow your business, versus the things on your to-do list are just things that need to get done, but they may not necessarily grow your business. Okay? So if we know that we wanted to increase the number of our clients, or we wanted to increase the number of our leads, well, there's some very specific things that need to happen in order for us to do this. This means that, 1, I need to pick up the phone and I need to make, let's say, 5 calls a day to my leads. All right. So you have your CEO time at 10 a.m. You sit down at your desk. The first thing on your list, you pick up your phone, you make 5 calls before you do absolutely anything else. Let's say that going on this notion, you were going to send 5 messages to old clients. So like people who have worked with you in the past. We call these alumni clients. And invite them back in, or start a conversation with them that can get you talking and nurturing it to get them to come back and use your services. So you pick up the phone, you make 5 calls as your very first thing to your leads. And then the second very much thing that you do is you start texting 5 old clients. Okay. And now you've sent 10 messages, or you've taken 10 conversations that hadn't happened previously. And that's all designated towards helping you get more people and more leads in your door. Cool? Like, that is super actionable. Now, the third thing on your list, now this could be totally arbitrary. I love that these two things are very actionable. Now, at the end of the day, you should be able to answer yes or no. Did you do those things? Yes or no, right? The way that these are listed out, the answer is very clear. Did you pick up the phone and make 5 calls to your leads? Yes or no? Did you pick up your phone and send 5 text messages to old clients? Yes or no? Okay. But sometimes there's something on here that we could put as a drop in the bucket of the long-term game. But as long as that is only one thing on our list and not something that occupies all 3 slots on our list. Now, what I mean by that is it could be maybe you're working on your social media and you're trying to develop the habit. And so this is a great place where you can throw something in there that is a drop in the long-term game bucket. Now, here's what I mean when I say that, since I've said it twice now. Making a social media post is not a very direct way to grow your business, but it is a necessity and it is something that needs to get done. Okay. So if you don't have the habit and you're trying to build the habit, you want to put, like, it's okay to put it as your number 3 on your list. If that will help you accomplish it every single day, then put it there as one of your big 3 until it becomes like you don't have to think about it anymore. And once you get to a point where you don't have to think about it anymore, or it's less resistance of you fighting yourself, amazing. Pull it off that list and replace it with something else. Okay. So these ones are all yes or no. Number 3 is obviously a yes or a no also, but I wanted to make the difference between these things are very much like the answer is yes or no from the client also, or the lead, right? Do you want to come back to use my service? Like it's yes or no. Obviously you're not asking them that question, right? But at the end of the day, the outcome of this is out of your control, but the action is within your control. Okay. So you're going for the action and you're also going to try and develop the habit. And that's why this one fits here. Now here's the difference. And this is where people kind of get lost in this because their big 3 aren't specific enough. They put something like Google Ads on their big 3. Google Ads are a one-time thing, meaning it might take you 20 or 30 minutes to get Google Ads up and running, but once it's up and running, like that's it. You don't have to do anything every single day. You might have like a big project like refining SOPs. And so I've had mentees who will write one SOP rewrite every single day. Well, SOPs are essential to your business, like standard operating procedures for those that don't know, or sets of instructions on how to do something. They're absolutely foundational to your business, but they don't grow your business. Like it's not an intentional step to grow your business that you can do every single day. So this becomes a to-do. And so now you need to understand that these things are to-do list items. Okay. Another one that might fall on this list. This was one I had a conversation about the other day. Staff onboarding. They wanted to build out an onboarding program for when they hire new staff. Like it's a great project, but that's exactly what it is. It's a project. It's not an actionable item that will grow their business, right? So that is a to-do task. And so once I sit down for my CEO block, whenever that is, and I do 1, 2, 3, and my answer to all those things are yes, then I can turn around and I can start working on my to-do list, whatever it is, and the things that need to get done. That's a whole other training video on that. But that's the point at which you start to tackle your to-do. And the mistake that we make is we try and do it here. And we run out of time, or we get overwhelmed, or we get so consumed in this list that we don't ever get to work on this stuff. And it's this stuff that grows our business. Okay? This is the stuff where our freedom in the future lies. And so that's why when you start out to block your CEO time, you have to understand that that block needs to be a designated place for the big three. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is if as you're coming through building out these big three, if you're pretty good at focusing in and getting stuff done, then give yourself a list of 3 things. If you're not, if just focusing on this stuff is really painful for you and it's not like it doesn't come natural to you, then choose like 1 thing. And for the first 3 months of practicing through this template, just work on accomplishing that one single thing every single day. Because the problem that you need to solve is momentum. You just need to get that snowball rolling before we get to the snowman. As whereas some other people might be more efficient with how they operate and switch tasks and do things like that, they might be able to handle 3. And that's amazing. Go for it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't need to be 3 if you don't want it to be 3. Okay. All in all to say is that you prioritize where your CEO time fits in your calendar spot, in your day planner spot, by figuring out what your priorities are. Once we do that, we block our CEO time, and then we need to know how to refine what is actually going on in that CEO time. And this is how we do this. We figure out what our big 3 are. Now, if you're working with a mentor, amazing. Your mentor will help you figure out what those big 3 things need to be. If you aren't, I definitely recommend that you should be, because this will keep you on track and your shoulders always pointed in the right direction so that you're not getting distracted. And now my last piece to this is discipline. You can spend all 15, 20 minutes of getting this procedure set up, but if the second something pops up, like a family dinner or a sick kid, whatever it might be, that disrupts your calendar, the outcome is not to just throw everything out and say this doesn't work for me. It means tomorrow you give it another shot and you just simply focus on getting one thing done on one of your big 3. Because once you get one thing done, it trickles down into the next thing. And if it doesn't go into the next thing on that big 3 list, it will go into the next day. And then we just start again. It is a template. Ebb and flow with it. And if you can get on this template like this and figure out what your big 3 are, you're definitely going to grow your business. There's no doubt about it. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm so stoked. If this really resonated with you, I would love to hear the feedback. Just send me an email, Taryn@perfectdaybusinessmentoring.com, or tag me on your socials or send me a message, whatever you need to do. I want to know that this is working for you. And if you have any other questions, just pop them in an email and send them off my way. And I'm happy to get a response to you.